Back to This Is Why We Stand on Westchester Talk Radio. I am your host, Joe Archino, and we are here at American Legion Post 135 in White Plains. Very grateful to be here. We are, of course, produced by Shark Creative and made possible by Entergy Indian Point Energy Center, Hightower, Westchester, White Plains Hospital, Westchester County Office of Economic Development, Robeson, and Accorda Therapeutics. It is time for your Army West Point football report. I'm Joe Archino and Ken Kraetzer, of course. Ken has been generous enough to invite me to tag along and cover the season so far, and I've really been enjoying the opportunities. So Ken, we're here once again to break down what is a big game for Army today on the road against Western Kentucky. But let's backtrack a little bit before we get into this matchup. Last week, we were there at Michie Stadium. They fell to Tulane, a tough game. They fall 42-33. But we look at Army right now, Ken, 3-2. You look at the way they start their season. They beat Rice. They go on the road. They play Michigan very tough, just lose in double overtime against them. And then they bounce back with a win against UTSA. They win at home against Morgan State. And then, of course, we talked about the loss to Tulane already. You and I were talking about something interesting on the phone last night, how physical the toll the Michigan game took on Army. Do you think that might be a little bit of the part of the reason we've seen some fatigue and injuries on them? Is that Michigan game really took a lot out of them?
Well, that was a superlative effort by Army at Michigan in front of 111,000 people at that game. And those people were all animated in the second overtime to try and get their defense to make a play, which they did against Army. And but Army lost their free safety, Jalen McClinton, who still isn't playing, and also Kelvin Hopkins got hurt along the way in that game and missed 2 games. He's back at about, I'd say, 99% speed. I don't think he's fully recovered, but he's a tough guy. The quarterback for Army, the senior, and we saw him in practice. He was moving around pretty well this week. So Army's had a couple of injuries. Cam Jones got hurt in a very tough collision with a player in the Morgan State game, and he's out indefinitely. But they've had a couple players step up in the defensive backfield. Malcolm Morrison, who's from Iona Prep, has been playing, starting now, and had 10 tackles in the game last week against Tulane. And a senior, Ryan Velez, has been playing very well, getting a chance to play as a senior and doing very well. Had 12 tackles in the game against Tulane. Army struggled a little bit with their offensive line with injuries. Peyton Reeder, their center, has been in and out of the lineup a little bit with injuries. So they've had to move some players around on the offensive line, and that's really the cornerstone for Army. We also saw Tulane do something which some of the schools do. They really bottled up against the dive play, against a fullback dive over the center. Tulane had a really big defensive tackle, a 310-pound player who really worked to concentrate on stopping the fullback dive play. And then they were pretty good at the outside play. They're used to playing the option offense from Navy, so which is in the American Conference with them. So they really look good. They moved up into the national rankings in the top 30 this week off the effort against Army. So Army's going down to Western Kentucky tonight. Our friend Colonel Sam Houston is going to be at the game for us, and both teams are 3-2. I would say that looking at Western Kentucky, they like to throw the ball. They've got a couple of quarterbacks who have played for them, and Stephen Duncan, Ty Storer, and we'll see which one gets the start. Duncan has played more, and but he's had a tendency. He's got 4 interceptions. Army's been really working at putting pressure on the quarterback from stunts, from linebacker blitzes, and cornerback blitzes. Elijah Riley, the cornerback for Army, has 3 sacks on the team. He actually leads the sack. It's interesting when a cornerback leads your team in sacks,
right?
And so it causes the defense, and I know Michigan probably wishes they started earlier, keeping an extra running back in the backfield if they're going to pass. So that kind of changes how the offense is going to play against Army when they see the threat of a blitz package. And their defense coordinator, John Luce, was promoted this year, and we asked him about it. because they blitzed a lot in his first game down at the Armed Forces Bowl against Houston. And he said that's his first thought in the morning when he gets up is how they're going to blitz a quarterback this upcoming week. So we'll see how they do with that. They've also got a terrific defensive lineman, Western Kentucky, D'Angelo Malone, 46 tackles on the year. 13 tackles for loss. He's leading Division I of the NCAA.
It's a stat right there.
7 sacks. So keeping an eye on number 10, a junior. He's basically a stand-up defensive end, and about 230 pounds, but fast and quick. You know, the kind of player the pros are looking at, you know, for the future. So that's going to be number one priority, is keeping him from stopping the Army plays, both blitzing the quarterback. Army hopes they don't have to throw as many times. They threw, I think, 24, 25 times last week against Tulane.
Which is, for Army, a very high number.
It means the game's not going so well. And you're having a pass to open things up, that they're stopping the dive player, they're stopping the pitch play. We'll also see Kel Walker, really the playmaking slot back. The senior was injured last week, but Coach Munkin said he's ready to go. We saw him at practice, tough young guy, and wants to make the most. When you're a senior, about this time of the year, you're starting to count how many games you have left. You know, how many games you have left to play to make a difference. You don't want, you know, you're saying, you know, you want to win these games. Every game becomes precious when you're a senior. You've been preparing for this, especially at West Point. They go to the prep school for a year, and then you're building up to your senior year when it's all on your shoulders, and you leave your legacy based on how you do. And so, you know, Kelton Walker, Kelvin Hopkins, the quarterback, Connor Slopkin, Cole Christensen, the linebacker for Army. He's leading the team in tackles. Just nominated for one of the awards this week, and I wrote about that he's just such an outstanding guy as a football player, 2-year starter for Army, but also as a cadet, he'll be a terrific Army officer.
There's so much great leadership on this team, certainly, Ken. And you know, this is an important game for them this season. We were talking about the other day. You know, for them, the key is they obviously want to get a good bowl game. And certainly, when you look at the way Western Kentucky, I think we agree they'll get to take care of business. Army is favored in this game. When you look ahead,
don't tell Western Kentucky that.
Don't no. And look, it's a road game like this is never easy, and it's never going to be a walk in the park, especially with the way we saw that. I mean, Tulane was big, like you've mentioned, some of the big boys they had up front, and that definitely wore them down, I'm sure, a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know, the last time Army had a home-and-home with Western Kentucky, they lost both of them. And the last one, Bobby Petrino was the coach, came into Mikey Stadium. And they are a good, solid, top 50 college football program, maybe even better. And they and Tulane really going to battle it out for the American Conference.
We just go ahead a little bit. Just after this, you've got Georgia State, you've got San Jose State, Air Force, UMass, VMI, Hawaii, and Navy. So you do still have plenty of opportunities, and we'll be trying to cover them all for you and give you a little preview before each game. But obviously, Ken, in a very important game for Army, you've laid it out very well for us. 7 o'clock tonight, you will be able to see the Black Knights back in action, looking to get back on a winning track. They're 3-2, so tonight, if they get it done, that would obviously push them to 4-2. But Ken, always really appreciate all the work you do covering Army football. It's really been a blast getting to cover the season with you, and looking forward to many more opportunities this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. Army's defense got to shut down the Western Kentucky passing game, and they just got to run their ball control offense and run some long drives.
That's what the key is, certainly. Everyone, I'm Joe Archino. That's Ken Kraetzer. This has been your Army Football Report.